I've been playing The Sims for years, like since its inception, okay? I'm an oldie here, okay, an OG. But I've never deleted any of my save files. I would always make backups, and I would never delete them though. And I'm really happy I never did, and I actually never will now, because you never know what potential that save might have. And I'm not even talking about just the save files that you love, also your abandoned save files. I really don't think you should ever give up on them, because you never know what story might still linger beneath the cracks. Like, that save file got boring at some point, but it doesn't mean that the save file itself sucked, right? It can still, like, you can come back years later. You might learn new things about story or about, your characters, or how you can create your characters. The game might get new features, new mods, a new type of gameplay that makes revisiting that old save file interesting again. And also, like, if you get bored with your current save file, why not revisit an older one? It brings back nostalgia. You can see the storyline with new eyes, depending on how old that save file is. With really, really new eyes. Like, I have a super old Sims 3 save file that I got 5 generations worth of legacy gameplay in, and that was from 2010 is when I started that save file, and I haven't played it for so long. I think I like played it intensely for like 2 years back in 2010, so like between 2010 and 2012, and then I stopped playing it. And I think that was right around when Sims 4 came out. That's why I think I kind of discontinued it. I actually remember trying to recreate the current air and everything in The Sims 4, which didn't really work out as I thought. And yeah, as you might recall, if you were there in those days, Sims 4 was a bit bare bones, so it couldn't really, grab my attention anyways. And for some reason, there wasn't a disconnect. I couldn't really go back to the old Sims 3 save file. For some reason, I just couldn't get back into it. And I mean, it was a really old save file. It was like I was a different person when I played this old. And so now, after I created the Sim Guardian, which is like my dream Notion archive template system for keeping track of my Sims, I wanted to collect all of the lore from old save files and just, reminisce a little bit and have it all in one place. And I also thought, wouldn't it be cool to also maybe figure out a way to make that save file interesting again? Like, while I was digging through all the screenshots and piecing everything together, I was wondering, like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not just worth saving all this lore just for, nostalgia's sake. Maybe I could actually, like, still get some gameplay out of this. But how, right? Like, I guess it went stale for a reason. So is it even possible to make such an old save file even fun again? Like, I would, first of all, I was tasked with the fact that I had a gazillion backups of this save file and I had to figure out which one was the latest version, because I had actually saved a bunch of the photos of these Sims in a family tree app called My Family Tree, which I love, and their faces were older than what I thought was my current latest save version of it. So I was like, oh, darn it. So I had to find the actual latest save file, which meant digging into the save file folders and looking at the date of the NHD file and what was the most latest one. I ended up finding it, thankfully. So I think currently I am working with the latest save file version, because that was what I needed also to find out all the information about the Sims and their traits, because I wanted to save that all in this Notion, right? And so basically I organized all the screenshots I've ever collected for that save, well, in general for the Sims. Like, I had to just get it all in one place. Then I had to sift through that and try to make sense of, okay, when was what picture taken? Because when you copy paste things over, it changes the creation date. But luckily, for some reason, the modification date was the actual creation, like the true one. So through those dates, I was able to piece together, okay, who was born before who, which would make this person actually be this other person. It was so confusing, but it really helped to put everything in Notion and to, like, obviously I had the family tree that I had created a couple of years ago, which really helped also piece things together. But still, people look different in their photos. Like the toddlers, for example, all look the same, and it's like, okay, who's who? And it really helped to have those dates as well. And because I also had the dates of screenshots, as you see here in this Sim Guardian, I actually collect lore, so I collect memories and so the history and all that stuff. So here we can go and check memories. So I was able to like input these screenshots into little memories, like little stories, and collect them, and based on their dates and everything, and just seeing here like everything in front of me, I was able to realize who's who and just make more sense out of it. Because actually, this is just one family. I actually haven't pasted in or uploaded a lot of memories and photos from other families, other legacies that are part of the save file. And then I have all the photos as well, as you can see, a ton. And like you see here, this baby and this ghost, it's like, okay, who's who? Because this could have been Sam, who is this guy. This could have been, obviously, Eric is who I figured it must be. And also, who's this baby? And like figuring that all out. Like there's also this one kid, Amanda, where is she? Yes, here. For the longest I thought this was Mercy, but it's Amanda. And piecing that all together, but it was really fun. And it's really nice then, after all that work, to be able to review everything in one place and to actually know, like, okay, these things happened and in this order. And also the relation that the Sims have to each other. Because, so this here is basically the save file record. So we have, like, the summary, if I wanted, about the save file, the current year. So we're in year 3, day 82. So overall day 82 in the save file. It's currently winter. And so I think that's also really cool to be able to keep track of what year I am in my save file. So I'm getting really nerdy with this. If you didn't realize already, like I spent a lot of time collecting all this lore, and I spent a crap ton of time creating this template. And yeah, I sell it on my shop. But let's be real, I created it for myself, okay? Girl, do you know how much time it took me to create the documentation for this? And that was a lot of work. I could have just been like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna have it for myself. That, like, everything I make, that is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking, what would I want? Somebody else might want it too. So let's make it public. Let's make some documentation for it. But yeah, I wanted this myself, and I am so glad I have it now. So now I have a little tracker that I can use. See, I can complete the day, and then a day is done. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. There's still on day 82, but this is so cool. So I have all of my lore. Like I said, I have all of the characters in this save file that I've collected. So yeah, I think I'm at the stage now where I could say, like, the most important Sims that matter to me I've collected in this save file. So as you can see, it's quite a few of them. And it's basically a handful of different legacies. So we have the White Legacy, we have the Parks Legacy, which the Parks Legacy is like the main legacy in this save file. We have the Del Corazon Legacy, which is very special and dear to my heart. We have the McDowell Legacy, which is actually everybody whose name is Cassidy. It's part of the McDowell Legacy. So I think those are the main ones. And then there are people that married into the family and whatnot, and so they are locked here as well. But I just had a lot of fun collecting all these characters. And as you can see, let's click into this one, for example. She's an heir of the Parks Legacy. So she's Gen 5. So I would have collected everything and anything about her, at least that matters to me. And so if I open up this in a large view. So before we're in the save file page where I have like a bird's eye view of everything, like of the households, of the characters, of the lore. But here I can see like information about her, and like she's Gen 5. I'm so proud of that. Gen 5. I know how much money she has, her net worth. So net worth is basically her cash on hand plus the value of her home. So home with all furniture and everything. And then we have further details like her career, her life goal. She got a naughty reputation. I did not remember that. Okay, girl. Yeah, and her home, where she lives, and any backstory if I had created one for her. But since this is basically was me just documenting past lore, there wasn't really a backstory that I created for her yet. I mean, it was part of the gameplay, I guess it came out of. But yeah, so her relationships. So that's also another thing. Like I dug into the save file and tried to piece things together, just first of all on the level of the Parks Legacy, just to make sense of who's related to who, and just putting that into the Sim Guardian, also with memories and whatnot. But I also wanted to see, okay, who is she actually friends with? And as you can see, so she's together with Joaquin Riley. She has a bunch, 4 friends. For some reason, I thought she had a bunch. But she has these 4 friends. So this is her mom and this is her sister. But Isabella is her really good friend. And Jasmine is from the Del Corazon legacy, so obviously it's more important. Love interest, Tony can afford. Okay, girl, what's going on there? So yeah, so I thought it was really fun to collect all those things, and I actually found out some funky stuff. So I'll get into that. Some stuff I didn't even know about other characters. Um, but let's go back. So, what I also think is really fun, I can actually see on this leaderboard which legacy is worth the most, and also on a generation basis. So, the Parks legacy is in the front by far. I mean, we have this is the longest standing legacy, so they've had the most time to accumulate wealth. And they basically bought out the entire town, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I have some notes that did take like from an old OneNote save file that had some summaries. And yeah, so Mercy Parks is from Gen 4, I believe. No, Gen 3. She's Gen 3. And she's like the richest by far. She also has this huge manor, Ravens Rock Manor. That's her lot, and it is also the most valuable property that is owned in the how do you say, in the save file of amongst everyone else. And so I really love that I can see like, okay, and also, like, who's an heir and who's a spare? Because you would think that the heirs would accumulate the most money because they're the ones I focused most on or the most important. But actually, sometimes these spares be creeping up with a lot of cash on hand. And depending on how you're playing, you might decide, you know what? Richest is the one who gets to play, or you want to play the poorest sim. Like, if you want, this is just a legacy leaderboard, so this is just how you see, okay, like how it is the net worth of each generation. As you can see, generation 3 is the wealthiest of all of them in the Parks legacy and whatnot. But you can also just see it from a character perspective. So I also have where it's like listed by lowest and highest funds. And yeah, so here we can see Amber. Amber could need some help here. Maybe we should jump into her save file, her what do you call it, her household, and see if we can support her a little bit. Mercy doesn't need anyone's help, and her successors will be very happy about that inheritance. Actually, yeah, I have an NROS installed, and so that I'm sure there's some sort of inheritance cool thingy that would work out there. But yeah, you can see who's the richest, like the net worth, but also funds. It's really cool. So I'm glad I was able to like not only collect all of the characters and create their profiles and collect the lore, which really is the heart of it all, but also to collect that supplemental information that it's just like super interesting because that can inform how I want to play the story moving forward. Like when I look at who's rich and who has less, is there conflict there? Who would I want to play because of the amount of money they have or don't have? So it's really fun to see all those relationships. And also, I collected households. So I know who lives where and what house in which part of the town. So what's really cool about St. Clair, it actually has, so it's a Sims 3 custom world, and it actually has different regions or different neighborhoods in it itself. And so it's cool to see, okay, the Sparsa household is downtown, and I have an idea already what these areas look like, how this world actually, each area, its vibe. We have Mercy in the very much wealthy, hilly area. And yeah, here we can see also all the properties that are in the save file, sorted by neighborhood. Megan is actually in this teensy tiny home, while Jason, as you might recall, is rolling in the money. He's got this manor. The Benedict townhouse, I still have to grab a photo of that one. But downtown, you can see it's very townhousey or apartments, penthouses. In Fairview, it's a bit more quaint. And Ravensbourne is very wealthy. And Southbridge, I would say, is also quaint, but it's like near the water, near the coast. It's very nice as well. It's in the legacies views where I really can see more about each legacy, though. So let's click into there. So I was really excited to start filling the Sim Guardian with my Parks legacy, so I could actually see what they look like in when I sprawl everything out and collect everything on one page. And so we have here 5 generations. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. So I don't actually think they started in St. Clair, but I don't remember the name of the town that they started in. So I found it in St. Clair. because I actually moved to St. Clair at some point. I actually recorded that as a memory somewhere. Yeah, in the family history, where memory gallery. Oh yeah, the Parks legacy moved to St. Clair, and so that was somewhere in Generation Four. They've only been living there for a couple of generations. I think they might have started in Meadow Glen, which is another custom world, but I really am not too sure because I tried to gauge it from the screenshots. I think Meadow Glen, but that's also the thing. Like, this is so old. I don't even know if that Meadow Glen custom world existed in 2010. Because I remember this house, I remember building it. Well, not from scratch, but I remember building upon it. So many memories in this family, and that's also a great thing about this view here. I see per generation the different memories, and as you can see, I don't have a lot. I unfortunately wasn't that great with keeping track back in 2010. Like I said, it's worth revisiting an old save file. An old dog learned new tricks along the way, and those tricks include keeping track. And so moving forward, I'm pretty sure the next 5 generations are going to have a lot more memories collected, a lot more photos and lore. Nevertheless, it's still fun to see what I did have cataloged and organized, where I can just like look back and remember. I also have here in the generations, so each generations page has its own overview. And I actually added a summary section. This is actually quite new. Like, I'm constantly improving and working on the Sim Guardian. We're actually at version 3 right now. So, I launched new improvements, fixes, and obviously, like, the latest was the Life and Death update. So this template, like, I use it for all of my different Sims games. So for The Sims 2, 3, 4, and it's going to be able to be used for future ones as well. So I'm like, of course, updating it whenever a new pack is released. A lot of the stuff for Life and Death was already in here, but like there was some little minor corrections or like 1 or 2 traits that we became aware of first when it was released. But basically this here isn't actually part of the official template yet, of the generation template. But I realized when I was collecting information about this really old legacy, as you can see, I didn't have a ton of memories to actually save in the memory gallery. So this isn't like telling much of the story of Generation 2, but I did have some notes in an old OneNote file, like just like really bare bones, but it was enough to scrap up a summary. So if I open up this in full page, we have here the founder and heir, which is of course Madison. And here I just input a summary. So I have like an overview of what actually happened in that generation. And so I think that's really fun. So just real quick. So basically Madison Parks, she's our founder, and she started at, Meadow Glen. I can correct that now. So it was Meadow Glen. Oh yes, it's confirmed. It is Meadow Glen. Okay, very, very nice. Cool. So I can correct that in the generations founding town. Perfect. But yeah, so Eric was a brave firefighter. So I remember when I started playing this save file, it must have been when Ambitions came out, because she was a stylist and Eric was a firefighter, and those are 2 careers that came with the Sims Ambitions pack, which is one of my favorites, by the way. I love anything that has to do with business, and I don't know, I love for me, it's like, you can be an artist or a painter, or you can make money with woodworking. That's one thing, but I feel like if you put it into a level of a freelancer career or creating your own retail store, I feel like that makes it. I love the complexity that gives that activity when it comes to money making, right? It's not just create a painting, sell it. It's more like there's more interaction going on, and I don't know. I just love the depth that brings. And so, Open for Business has always been my favorite pack, anyways. From The Sims 2, but I really loved Ambitions and how it like gave our Sims more interesting, like interactive careers, where I felt a skill that they had, I could really like put it to work, literally, and feel like I was progressing more than just something more simple. I don't know if I'm being clear, but basically, they were my little guinea pigs for the new pack, and little did I know they would turn out to be my most longest played legacy. And as you may have seen already from the only 2 memories I have here, it's being described here how Eric, dropped down on both knees, proposed to Madison. She, of course, said yes. I was too lazy to make a whole wedding venue and everything like that. So they eloped. Because I was just eager to get to the gameplay. I remember that vividly. I just wanted to play. And so the legacy part of things wasn't my focus as much because in that moment, because I just wanted to like explore the new pack. And so going all out with the wedding and everything wasn't really a focus then. But obviously, I don't really do that anymore. Now I really try to find time to make a wedding, and because it's fun, it's one of my favorite things. I mean, I did create a website called belovedsims.com, which is basically dedicated to collecting and curating content made by simmers for like wedding venues, honeymoon destinations, dresses, of course, attire, accessories, shoes, just all in one place, so that when, at least for The Sims 4, I plan my next wedding, there's less scouring the internet involved. But I digress. So yes, she said yes, of course. And then she continued her career as a stylist while Eric developed a love for traveling. Oh yes. Oh my God. I must have been exploring the freaking World Adventures pack as well. I don't even remember the order in which I got things. But I feel like I would have gotten things immediately after they came out. I don't think I would have waited long for getting an expansion pack, but I also don't remember it right now in which order, like, obviously World Adventures was the very first one, but I don't remember how close after Ambitions came out. But I remember having a blast with Eric. I think he's the one sim I actually really used the World Adventures the most intensely with. He explored a lot of tombs. He collected a ton of artifacts. Like there's a whole museum in St. Clair dedicated to the family, and literally the entire first floor is nothing but artifacts from Eric's explorations. And I had totally forgotten this, but he earned visa level 3 in Egypt, which is wild. And they bought a vacation home. I actually have to still record that vacation home. I totally forgot about that, but that's really cool. So that's something I could add to, for example, the estate here. So here we have a collection of things that are associated with the family. So we have the photo album, we have heirlooms. So far, I just have Eric's firefighter equipment as heirlooms, the different homes in the family. Oh, yeah, this is generation 1, so we won't see all of them. But this also exists on the legacy view. So in the legacy view, we'd see all the homes. But obviously, if he bought a family vacation home, it would be here as well. And he earned visa level 3, so that's actually something I could add to his profile as an achievement. So if we go to, just so you know what I mean, if I open up his profile, I can go to achievements. Let's just open this up real quick. And so everything that was important that he achieved is collected here. It was tricky, actually. That was also one of the challenges, wasn't only to figure out what was the actual true latest save file, but also a lot of these sims, like a couple of gravestones were missing. I couldn't like piece together everything. So I actually found a really, really old save file and just saved like some basic information about the sims, like their traits and stuff like that. Because in the earlier save file, which another reason I'm glad I didn't delete anything, because I had those older save files, I was able to retrieve information because the sims were still living, or we were still generations early enough before any buggy stuff happened with graves. Also, in my latest save file, all the photos were broken in the museum. So all the pictures that had been taken in game, they were all like black frames. I was like, oh, darn it. And so there was some corruption that went on there. I know I used a save file cleaner, so maybe I didn't have the right settings and it like deleted all that. But I was able to retrieve those images by grabbing an old NHD file or whatever from an older save file and just, I think the travel DB one. And that helps to bring back all those images. And so that was really cool. But yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had deleted past save files. So I think it's worth keeping everything. Like nowadays, hard drive space is cheap, and these are memories that if you're a simmer like me, super sentimental about your characters and about the experiences, the stories you've had with them, then you don't want, to save like, I don't know, 2 megabytes space because of, and then in turn lose all these memories. Like, no, I want this information about my sins. And so now I know, okay, he had a visa level 3, it said. Yeah, so I can add that here. Visa level. Next, I add details. So it's actually visa level 3. I give that information here, just here. So basically 3. And then we see, that's the full level. So that's great. good for Eric. But back to that summary. So visa level 3, bought a vacation home. Oh yeah. So adventure is super important to him. He loved raiding tombs. So the World Adventures Pack was basically, his oyster. And martial arts was very important to him. And even hanging out in the vacation home, even long after his death, playing games. As you can see, like he turned into a mummy and then he turned into a ghost, or I don't actually know in which order. If it was first he turned into a ghost and then a mummy, or a mummy and then a ghost. But I thought that was super funny that he must have been a ghost first. Yeah, because this is the reaping of Eric Parks. So he was a ghost first, and then he was a what do you call it? A mummy. Going through these images, I just now realized they're not really sorted by date made, right? So, but that's no issue. I can just change that here, date taken, and now they're in order. Perfect. And so here, now we can just like, if you look through, you see like how everything started. Madison at the fashion studio, Eric in uniform, them getting, engaged and married, and then having their first baby boy, baby Sam. And then we skip to the reaping of Eric Parks because I actually associated Sam and also his sister Amanda with Generation 2. So their photos don't really show up here because they're associated with a different generation. And so we skip to, again, what's relevant regarding Eric and Madison. And yeah, it's such a beautiful love they had. Even after he died, she was like, nah, this is still my one. Really, really cute. And here we also read on to learn that it's not only Mercy that was rolling in money. Like this family, I feel like ambition, adventure, and like, how would you say, like business is important to them. Like even already early on, Madison, like both of them were in very important professions, and Madison actually delved into her business ventures. It says here she invested in a venue near the beach. I have no idea anymore what that venue would be. But it's now a local getaway with the best drinks and music in town. Okay, cool. And so this knack for investing seemed to be inherited within the family. So now they own pretty much half the town, which means like in The Sims 3, you can invest in different lots. And so I bet you they just bought everything pretty much. And yeah, they made the most out of life and paved the way for future generations to come. I love it. So that is generation 1. Okay, 1 of 5. Oh, I love it. See, it's just so fun to like dig into all this history, this lore that was just dormant like for years. Like I haven't touched the save file in years, like in over a decade now. But so much had happened, that so much rich story, and you just don't. You don't want to delete that. You don't want to remove the chance of being able to revisit that and maybe fall back in love, right? So coming back to the family here. Actually, what I want to do is I think I want to add what I just now said to the family's identities about adventure and whatnot. And by the way, the family crest, I haven't created that yet. Like, I don't know, for me, like I just mocked one up real quick for another family I had and just put it in. But for the Parks legacy, I want it to be special. And I'm still trying to work out, like, I just now worked out with you what some important things are to this family. So, like common features, traits, values. So values, I would say, is definitely like ambition. Did I spell that right? Ambition. Adventure is important to them. And, business endeavors or striving for business. I don't know. Business endeavors is not really value, but you put me on the spot here. But I think those are definitely things that are important to them, and not necessarily business as in the sense of making money or lots of money, though that is kind of what happened in the end. Maybe, because I think for Madison and Eric, that wasn't their priority, okay? That wasn't their prerogative. But maybe in a later generation, it is the case for certain characters that they, got kind of like, their mind was focused only on money because they had so much of it. And was like, you know what, I don't know, it could be conflicting. Like, they just valued being in business, like that fulfilled them. But then other characters in the family might end up focusing on the money aspect of business, where it's not just about having a fulfilling business, one that helps the community and contributes to the community, but a business that just makes the most profit, right? Both value business or doing business, but for very different reasons. And so that's something I could potentially explore. Like Jason, I feel like the life he's kind of living right now, he could maybe be that type of sim. But I can actually look real quick what his traits are, if that actually would be realistic. Like, I don't want to pin something on him that wouldn't actually fit his personality. But yeah, so he's neurotic, technophobe, dramatic, athletic, friendly. I mean, he doesn't really sound like somebody who would, have that kind of money mindset. Friendly. He's neurotic, but maybe he's somebody who just likes to hold on to money. And maybe not necessarily put it in the bank. I don't know, but he doesn't sound like he would have like a very profit, revenue driven mindset when it comes to business. But yeah, that's why I'm glad I have all that information collected here. I can just have a quick peek at his profile and see, okay, is what I'm pinning on him doesn't even make sense for him and his personality, or am I just taking them to thin air? Who else could I pin it on? Who else does it make more sense to? Yeah, you get my drift. In Generation 2, the founder was Sam, and we can just real quick check that summary. What happened there? Oof, a lot. So yeah, this is just a bunch of stuff that happened in the family. So he ended up making a living in a journalism career, family-oriented like his dad. Oh, that's a value I could add to the legacy values. I love that he ended up staying in the family home. And here we have Mercy coming into the picture, which is, I think, the sim I played the most during this legacy. So she's definitely dear to my heart. And then they adopted little Lily. China still, so Shang Simla actually, let's be correct here. Shang Simla. Let's add that to the dictionary. So they traveled there, and martial arts, I think, is also something that's very important to the family throughout the generations. So Mercy ended up being quite proficient in martial arts. The wife of Sam, Christine, was quite proficient in it. Obviously Eric was, being visa level 3, he was like an expert in everything. Shang Sim La, including martial arts. And I think Flora, which is Generation 4, she also delved into it. But yeah, I love that like Mercy would practice martial arts on the, kicking dummy that her grandpa had once brought home from one of his many trips. Yeah, so he was a real inspiration for her. And Lily actually wasn't too interested in martial arts, but she ended up finding the love of her life in Shang Simla. She met Ye, and first they had like a long distance relationship, but then he moved also to Meadow Glen, and they ended up getting married. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I think that's like the next generation, because this is Generation 2. This is Sam's generation, so it's not about them in this generation. And as you can see, I only have one memory for these guys. So Sam fell in love with Christine. They had a little hot tub date. I'm pretty sure this wasn't their first date, but it's one that I got a picture of. So, because I think they looked so pretty next to each other, posed like this. I don't think this was posed with like a pose play or anything. I think this was like a natural in-game pose. But yeah, he was a good one. So let me just add family to one of their values. So business and family, not in that order, of course. But I mean, it started with ambition and adventure. Ambition for Madison, adventure for Eric. Business followed, something they both valued. And then family, obviously, it's what they built together. And so I would say these are the 4 values this family has, for sure. Who knows? Not every sim in the legacy carries these values in the same way, or even maybe at all, but I would say those are the family values that Madison saw for her family moving forward. It's always hard to pick a favorite, but I think Generation 3 is my favorite generation. The Generation 4 is probably a close second, but I really spent a lot of time with Mercy. So yeah, this is just a placeholder until I find time to actually write a proper biography. Like I said, like, I mean, at the same time, like a crest is something that can change as well. And as you can see, I can click into this and it just changes real quick. But I want to create meaningful descriptions. And so I'll just remove this actually entirely. I just love Mercy. Like, she had great traits. She was brave, ambitious, disciplined. She loved martial arts, just as much as, her grandpa and her mother. And so actually, I want to show off. I love the memories that we have here. So we have Mercy and Christine's training session. So if I click into that, you can see like also the photos attached to it. I love that Mercy reached Zen at some point during that session. Of course, they traveled to Chiang Simla together. And here's the photo album of that trip of her, climbing the mountains on the way to that temple and pushing through the pain and pushing herself to the limit during her training. And of course, her first date with Ian, who, later became her husband. And Lily got married to Yishen, but she kind of basically splashed her mom with some bubbly. Mercy and Ian's wedding. Yeah, so I would say this was before I was really great at weddings. It was quite tricky. I think I wasn't savvy about mods too. I mean, I had a ton of them already at this time. But as you can see, like, I had an issue with his outfit and people, staying seated, and I don't know. It wasn't the most beautiful wedding. I just put it together real quick. But, I'm still proud of it. It's still, I guess, got some cool photos still from it. It's definitely unique. It was a unique experience, unique wedding. And then maybe the most key moment in Mercy's life is when she became the queen of the night, when she became a vampire, basically. And that helped her gain all the wealth she has today, because, I was able to play her really long because she was a vampire. And I think at one point I just said, you know what, I want her to be able to pass. So she's actually still living, even though we're on generation 5 right now, and the generation's heir is like an adult now, like, or young adult. And so a lot of time has gone by, but Mercy will pass soon because she is an elder. But yeah, I had some great times with her. I think this is when the late night pack maybe came out around this time, because I was really discovering the new club system and everything in the pack. So you can really see from this legacy also my journey from when, which packs I had and with different packs coming out. I think actually looking back, it's really fun to consider how I can see my journey in that aspect as well. But yeah, Mercy became a vampire, and I think she made a lot of enemies from that as well. Like, I was just looking into her, amount of friends she had and everything. I can actually go to her profile and show you. Like, she has quite a few enemies. And they're like from all different legacies. So the White Legacy, the MacDowell Legacy, the Del Corazon Legacy. Like, she made enemies with everyone. She even made enemies within her own family. So Flora is her daughter, and Dana is, I think, her sister. And Paella is the former wife of Dina. So yeah, she's got, I don't know why she has bad blood with her sister. Her daughter. That really surprises me. But that's something I'd love to explore, like to figure out, and maybe also to redeem that relationship. Like, I remember playing another family in a totally different save file, where I played this sim called Florida, and she had a really estranged relationship with her daughter Palmyra. That was in the Isla Paradiso world. And I just remember playing that household, like it was one of the pre-made households, and I just thought it was so fun to just make it my goal to redeem that relationship and to make them close again. And of course I succeeded, because that was my goal and my mission. And maybe I'll do the same for Flora and Mercy. Like, Mercy is, no longer a vampire. She's, cast away that undead life, that, potentially bloodthirsty, evil life. I mean, vampires aren't necessarily evil, but it seems like she didn't do good if she got all these enemies. But I think she also has quite a lot of friends, yeah. So that's also speaking for her. Funny enough, also, well throughout different legacies represented. But yeah, I think possibly we could do something about that. But where were we? Generation 3 now, I think? Yeah, so back to generation three, to the summer real quick. Just, I don't want to miss anything. So yeah, a wedding took place at the beautiful beach club venue the Parks family owned. Oh, okay. So they owned that property. Okay, cool. So that was Mercy and Ian. You remember in the nice little ducky swim get up. And then Mercy gave birth to two lovely girls, Dana and Flora. Oh, okay, Dana wasn't Mercy's sister. Dana was her daughter, which makes it even worse. That means she's estranged with both of her daughters. Aw. And Dana, oh, yes, exactly. Paella was actually Dana's childhood imaginary friend, which, if I'm not mistaken, came with the Generations pack. So it seems like that pack dropped while I was playing Gen 3 of Parks Legacy. And yeah, so Dana basically brought Paella to a science facility and helped her be changed into a real girl. And yeah, Dana ended up falling in love with Paella. I mean, they already had a really close relationship, they were besties. But yeah, and then Paella and Dana basically made it official and got married. And Flora ended up becoming an avid rider, a horse rider. She was very fond of horses, which is actually a detail I forgot. So I just now realized this is actually part of Gen 4's story. So I will actually copy this, delete it from here, and I'll add it to the summary here. Let's see if it still makes sense. Yeah, it does. It actually makes perfect sense. So we know this part already, and this is Flora. So she ended up being the heir. And then as she grew older, the family, so she and everybody really moved to St. Clair, just ported the whole entire lot over there. Yeah, and she moved into her first apartment. She started working in the film industry. Then she met Donovan Del Corazon, who was a handsome young police officer. Yes, and so let's go look through those memories. So we have Flora going horseback riding, like I mentioned before. We have Dana and Paea's wedding, their first date after she was, turned real. We have Flora and Donovan in their first apartment together in St. Clair. We have their wedding. Oh, let's just click into that because I think their wedding is absolutely beautiful. So as you can see, like I took a lot of photos. I think this is when I was maybe starting to keep track a little bit more. But also I feel like weddings are always a bit more fun to take photos of because, you're prepared a lot. And so here are just, some photos from the wedding, them cutting the cake together, their first kiss, and, at the altar, them exchanging rings. And so this is really cute. And I remember having an absolute blast creating these photos for their honeymoon. So basically, they had a honeymoon at that one Sunlit Tides custom world. Yeah. I don't know if I got it immediately after it came out, like if this is again showing the timeline of expansion packs based on when I played certain things, but I had so much fun them traveling there, taking these photos, and skinny dipping. Ooh. And I think ever since then, I try to, when people are having a wedding, I try to make it a honeymoon out of it as well. Like a whole all-around experience. Because, in real life, too, usually people go on honeymoon. They do a little vacation after they get married. And so instead of following the footsteps of a family founder, just getting eloped real quick in the living room so that they can get on with their stylist and firefighter life, I really try to have things be a bit more elaborate. It's a bit more of an experience for the characters. And that's why I really wanted to make Beloved Sims as well, because it can take already a ton of time to find out your Sim's outfit for the wedding. And that's just for the bride, right? To find the venue, clothing for everybody else. And then also honeymoon destination girl, who has the time? And so on belovedsims.com, I love that like it's sorted also by destination, by type of destination, like the world, and also whether or not it's a hotel resort. You can also select like whether or not it is a luxury or more intimate and whatnot. And so yeah, it's all just for Sims 4. I haven't collected and curated for The Sims 3 yet, but I might do that if there's like enough demand. I can also include that in beloved sims.com. We'll see. But yeah, so this is one of my favorite memories. Just for me as a simmer, it was so much fun to play and record. And then we have Generation 5, Megan Parks, which there's not much of a summary here yet. I haven't added that to this one because not much has happened with this part of the family yet. So if I look in the memory gallery, I don't think there's going to be anything. Okay, Elliot and Jacqueline's first kiss. So Elliot is Megan's brother. And so we can look here under members how many are part of this generation. And so it's Megan, of course, Jacqueline. Jacqueline is only part of this generation because she married into it. So she married Elliot. And then we have Roxy. So Roxy, Elliot, and Megan are siblings. I just thought Megan was the most interesting of them all, so I chose her to be the, the legacy heir. It was a toss-up, though, because Elliot is also pretty cool. And I love Jacqueline, so I'm definitely going to keep following their journey. And, hey, I might just change it. Like, I might change my mind if Megan gets boring. I might say, no, you know what? You've been revoked the heir privilege. And also, like, I don't know if I clarified this, how it works for me in choosing the heir and how, like, the succession goes. So I can actually show that best on the actual page of the legacy. So I do it by the principle of direct lineage. So we have, of course, the founder, Madison Parks. Everybody who is a daughter or son of her is fair game. They can be heir. And it ended up being Sam. And so now only children of Sam can become heir, not children of Amanda or if anybody else was like a sibling. They can't become it. And so that makes it the choice a lot easier for the heir of the next generation. It has to be from Sam. If he ends up having boring kids or no kids and Amanda had kids, then I would have just changed my mind and she would have been heir. But that's how it flows down. And so we have Mercy ended up being the heir amongst, so it was Mercy and Lily were his daughters, and then end up choosing Mercy as the heir. And so now only children of Mercy are eligible to become the heir of the next generation. So we have Flora was chosen as the heir for Generation 4. Eligible would have been Flora, Jason, or Dana. But it was Flora. And so while I think Jason might have a kid, I'm not so sure. They're not even eligible to be heir because you can only be an heir if you are a descendant of an heir. And so again, we have the children of Flora. We had 3 for an option, and we ended up going with Megan. I can change this at any time if I wanted to, like, change my mind, but I think we're gonna go with this for now. And so yeah, that's how basically the heirs are chosen. But if you marry into the family, you are considered at least a little bit part of the family, just, because it's interesting to see who married into the family. Also, how legacies are combined. Like, Flora actually used to be married to Donovan, who is part of the Del Corazon legacy, right? And there would have been a conflict. So, okay, what is the legacy going to be for their kid? So the kid will either carry on the Parks legacy or it'll carry on the Del Corazon legacy if it was Flora and Donovan, right? And so the Parks legacy was always my main squeeze. So the Parks legacy I consider as the strongest one. And so any children of Flora will carry on the Parks legacy, even as a spare. And so Donovan was out of the run for being heir for his family because it wouldn't make sense to make him heir if all of his children would be part of the Parks legacy, right? And so he was out of the running. So I just navigated to the Del Corazon family real quick so I can better display this. But let's see. So here we have Donovan is part of the 3rd generation. And he was never considered to be an heir because, like I said, he was married to somebody who would have made it to where none of his children would have been able to pass on anything anyways, to carry on that legacy. And so instead I had chosen Fenya, who married also into another legacy, but her legacy is stronger than theirs. So the Del Corazon is my second favorite legacy. So they're just considered stronger than anything that comes before that. But then it turns out Donovan ended up divorcing Flora, or I think it was unanimous. It was fine. It wasn't much bad blood there, but they ended up getting divorced. And so Donovan was theoretically fair game again to be heir because now his children could potentially not, be involved with a stronger legacy. And that was the case. So he ended up marrying somebody he found abroad. He ended up marrying Dalida, and they have a daughter together called Dunya. As you can see here, the parents are Donovan and Dalida Parks. Yeah, Donovan took on the Parks last name and never got rid of it. I might change that, but yeah. So theoretically, he could be heir now. Like, I could decide that I find this more interesting. And it just basically, to be honest, what it comes down to is who I'm most interested in playing. So between these two children, I'm most interested in playing Amelie as the heir. So Dunya is just not going to be heir. She's going to be spare, which you can see here is the case. And so I kept my decision that Fenya will be heir so that her daughter, Amelie, who I want to be heir next, who I want to play as heir next, will be heir because, like I said, only children. And as you can see, Fenya only had Amelie. Donovan only had, well, he has those three children he had with Flora, which would never have been eligible to be heir anyways. Like I said, stronger legacy was the Parks, but Dunya could have been. But I ended up deciding for Emily. If Emily gets born at some point, I might change my mind again. But at some point, I don't change my mind anymore. Like if time has gone too far. But that's kind of how I decide who becomes heir. So first of all, your parent has to be an heir for you to be an heir in any capacity. And second, depending on who you marry, it could knock you out of the running because you married into a legacy that is stronger than yours. And third, if your kids are boring, then I'm sorry, you're not going to be heir because I'll take that away from you, whatever, and then give it to somebody who made more interesting kids. That's just the realness of it. Okay, that's how I play. Okay, that's how I play. And what I thought, going back into the save file and rediscovering everything and logging everything, I really thought the Parks Legacy was going to be my main focus. But it turns out that I found out a lot of interesting things about other Sims living in the world as well. Also really cute things. For example, when I was collecting the households and putting them together, I was also looking at the pets and like putting them together as well and creating profiles for them when I thought like they were relevant enough. Because I never really been a fan of pets in The Sims 3 because I felt like they were popping out like babies like everywhere, like bunnies. Not like babies, like bunnies. And it was just too much. Like I felt like pets sometimes were too much of a hassle. But I looked into Elliot, who is a little cat from the Cassidy household, which is part of the McDowell legacy. And I was looking into his relationships and stuff, and I happened to notice that he was married to another cat in the world, to Lisa del Corazon. And I didn't even I didn't make that happen. Elliot did that all on his own. And technically they're not married, they're mated, but Elliot put a ring on it, as we can see very clearly in the picture. So she's wifey in my book. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cute if they had their own little legacy, like a little cat legacy? I've never played that before, actually, like creating a legacy from pets. And it actually lends itself to that in The Sims 3 because you can control the pets, and so you have a bit more agency. And Elliot is quite old now, though. I think Elliot is an elder, so we need to pick up the pace. And so I've actually added it as one of my goals for this save file right here that I want definitely to have kittens and start a new cat legacy with those two and see where things can go. I think that'd be cute. And I really wouldn't have found this out if I hadn't painstakingly collected the households I thought was important. So basically I just opened up the save file and clicked on the households I thought were interesting, and then I would save their characters and their traits and everything. And then Elliot happened to be in one of those households, and I was like, you know what, let's log Elliot as well for funsies. And then I was looking at his relationships and I'm like, oh, he's married. And so I thought it was super cute. I also found out that Shad is really disliked by many in town. And so let me show you who Shad is. This is Shad from the Del Corazon legacy. And when I was piecing together relationships, creating these profiles and looking in everybody's relationship panels, Shad was the enemy of a lot of people. So if I show you his enemies real quick, we can see. Okay, I feel like it was more. But Mercy's also an enemy of a lot of people. But it turns out his traits, it makes sense because he's evil, hot-headed, and unlucky. So it seems like somebody who would naturally have maybe not a lot of friends. Actually, let's test that theory. How many friends does he actually have? Because that's something I would have also saved. 3 friends. Okay. I thought that was interesting. And so it could be a character I'd be interested in maybe playing, knowing his traits and his current status with a lot of people in town. Maybe, I could continue making enemies, reconcile with certain people. I don't know. But, as a whole, I'm really glad, again, that I did not delete these save files. For one, certain ones were key to piecing together the meaning of the one I'm currently playing. So a lot of gravestones, bugged out photos that were rescued thanks to old save files. But yeah, I'm really glad because as you can see, there's so much going on in this save file, and this isn't even every household, okay? And every character in this save file. It's really just the ones that I found the most interesting and wanted to save. But after rediscovering all this lore that I had already created, and of course discovering more about the Sims and their stories and things I just didn't even know about, aka Elliot and his little, wifey. This save, like this really old save, literally haven't been playing it in like probably 12 years. It's 14 years old in total. It feels brand new now. Like I am hyped. I'm ready to get back into the game. I mean, I was already hyped and ready to get back into Sims 3 because of The Sims 3, but I'm so looking forward to like not like I had already started a new save file in The Sims 3. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna play with, but no, now I just want to continue really with this one and a couple of others that I have been logging into The Sim Guardian. It just makes me like just see it with new eyes. And just really get excited to play with it. So I'm really glad I didn't chuck it. And yeah, it's like reading a good book. I feel like, or reading an old book again for the second time. You just remember all the twists and turns, and you get excited about things again because you kind of like forgot actually how the plot goes. But then when you remember it all again, it's like, oh, that's really cool. And the beauty of The Sims, though, is that the story never has to end. Like, it seemed like it ended when I abandoned the save file so long ago, but I can choose at any time to pick it back up, right? And that's what I'm doing now. So I am basically going through a bunch of old save files, other legacies for The Sims 3 for now, but I'm gonna probably do that for The Sims 4 as well. And just, with new eyes, like I'm a whole different person than I was 14 years ago. And just, I've also learned a lot of new things about how to create characters and storylines that, actually, captivate you in The Sims. And also The Sims 3 was just great at creating super interesting Sims that would keep you captivated anyways on their own. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to exploring that more and also sharing that with you in the next few weeks. And so I hope I've inspired you also to just maybe take a look-see into those old hard drives and backups. What are some save files that you might have that you can rediscover? Like, sadly, I don't have any from The Sims 2, but maybe you have a Sims 2 save file you could, bring back to life that you haven't played in years. Like, imagine, like, already the nostalgia you get when you play The Sims 2 again or The Sims 3, and it's just the nostalgia, even if it's like a brand new save file. Imagine the feels if you play a save file that you haven't touched in years. It's like a time capsule of who you were maybe as a teenager, or where you were in your storytelling journey in The Sims. And it just reminds you, like in this case, it reminds me of how much fun I had discovering these different packs that came out throughout the years, well, the 2 years, I think, when I was actually actively playing this legacy. And it's just so fun. And so I want that for everybody. And yeah, you don't have to save everything in a super extensive, ridiculously complex Notion template like I have, though for me it is of the utmost necessity because I love having everything connected and being able to just grab information at the whim. But honestly, like I started with this like puny OneNote file, which is where I got these summaries from, and of course folders full of screenshots. And with that, I was able to piece together all this information. And so it's really up to you how you save that lore, but definitely save it and definitely save those save files. And yeah, take a look-see again, revisit them. Let me know in the comments below what's like your oldest save file that you still have like on a hard drive somewhere. What's your oldest save file? And like, tell me a little bit about it. Like, was it a legacy gameplay? Was it maybe a, I don't know. Just let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about your oldest save file, and yeah, hopefully about you maybe rediscovering it and finding the joy in it again and falling in love with it again. Till next time, happy simming.